Greetings from the mothership. Jordan Sheridan live. Status Coup in the house. Sunny day in New York City. I hope you are having a lovely start to your week. A lot going on here. A lot going on in the United Corporations of America. Apparently Trump is spending all day with the Queen of England and the royal family. And that is all the corporate media wants to cover today. But in an alternate universe called reality, there's actually really important things going on, which we're going to get into today. I see that YouTube is, it's truly remarkable. Truly remarkable. You know, we were live yesterday, which I'm going to get into, this global YouTube/Google going down while I'm live. We were live yesterday to I think we had over 300 live at one point. And today somehow we go live and quite lower numbers. So I don't know. It's kind of strange when on one day you're going live to 300 people and the next day you're going live to 90. I don't think that's normal, but I digress. Thank you for watching yesterday, and we're going to get to the breaking news on Flint in 1 second. But yesterday, we were doing our first marathon live stream in quite some time. And for those of you status quoers who are long-term status quoers and part of the Coup de Calvary, you know the drill. I'm live Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock Eastern time. And Sundays, we were going live all day. I think one Sunday I went live for 8.5 hours. Probably why I needed another back surgery. And we go live to fundraise. We raise money through GoFundMe. We raise money in the Super Chat. We sign up more Status Coup members, which I'm going to get into. So yesterday, we were live. I believe we were live for 2.5 hours. We had signed up 13 new Status Coup members, and you know how to do it. You know the drill. Right now, we are at 432 Status Coup members. I know that graphic says 426. Didn't have time to change it. We're at 432 members, and 13 of you signed up yesterday while I was live. So we were on pace, if we could have kept going live, to sign up 20 to 25 new Status Coup members. But then all of a sudden, just my luck, Google and YouTube crash here on the East Coast. I think it was crashed for 6-7 hours. So kind of screwed up our momentum. But I thank you all who watched yesterday. We aired a really, really important interview with a father whose son tragically killed himself because his insurance company, those greedy criminals, canceled his insurance for over $20. We were going to air Bill Binney, the NSA whistleblower, but the live stream went down before that. So that interview is now up. And we also introduced you to our new Status Coup reporter, Marcus Ely, and played you some of his clips. I'm going to get into, and for those of you who couldn't watch yesterday, I'm going to reintroduce Marcus to you, talk about him a little more, and talk about how we need to raise more money to pay for Marcus and to grow Status Coup. So that's all coming up. Remember, folks, I need you to help me with this suppression. I need you to smash the like button. Smash that like button like it's your life on the line. Smash that like button like Donald Trump has asked you to be his date to go to the Queen. Dinner with the Queen at the palace. Actually, that might not be so bad. Smash it like it's Joe Biden telling you, make America normal again. The more people that press that like button, the more people that will see the live stream. For whatever reason, that's how YouTube's algorithm works. So the more people that press like, the more people that see. I also need you to press the share button. Share it on your Twitter. Share it on your Facebook. Share it wherever the heck you can. Share that. Share the live stream. By the way, this is a super chat also. So we are definitely trying to raise more money. You could contribute through super chat. And also yesterday we raised several $100s. Thank you through our GoFundMe. And we are going to be pushing our GoFundMe a lot. So thank you, Carrie. Just gave $100 before we went live. We are now at $55,320. And I'm going to talk more about why we hired Marcus, what we want Marcus to do, and why we're going to need you to help us keep Marcus. Because frankly, as I'm going to get into, I fronted the money. So, checklist, become a member. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Follow us at Status Coup on the Twitter. Super important. We're almost at 6,000 followers. We just started really tweeting and pushing Status Coup's Twitter. So help us do it at Status Coup. I'm at Jordan Chariton. Subscribe to our podcast and join our email list over at statuscoup.com. I was going to start the show with something completely different, but big news broke right before I went live, and it is very, very important. Ty and I and Jen were the only national reporters in Flint, Michigan on April 25th and the final week of April for the 5-year anniversary of the Flint water crisis. Let that sink in. It's been 5 years since an American city was poisoned, and 5 years since that American city is still drinking contaminated water. And there was not anyone. Nobody from NBC was there. Nobody from CNN was there. I think there was one photographer from the New York Times. Nobody. And by the way, as Bernie Sanders has shown you, going down to Denmark, South Carolina, Jen just did a report on that we're going to post tomorrow. As he showed you, there's a lot of other Flints with water contamination for many, many years that never got any attention. So for those of you who are new to Status Coup, one thing we like to do here is cover the stories the corporate media ignores and covers up. So between the Young Turks and now Status Coup, I've been to Flint 14 times. Ty has been to Flint, I believe, 10 or 11 times. Jen has now been to Flint 3 or 4 times. The reason we keep going back is not for glamour or to make a name for ourselves. The reason we keep going back is I personally cannot think of a bigger and more important story than an American city, particularly of poor working people, majority of whom are minorities, that nothing they did, were poisoned beginning in April 2014. And in a normal civilized society, so you look at New Zealand, who had a mass shooting, banned the guns within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they banned assault weapons. In a normal society, if there was a crisis caused by the government, you'd have the National Guard in there, you'd have the Army Corps in there, you'd have an emergency disaster declaration, and the pipes would be out, the people would have full Medicare for life, and it would no longer be a problem. But we don't live in a normal country because we don't live in a country, we live in the United Corporations of America. And remember to press that like button right under there, the thumbs up. If you're watching on your mobile phone, you have to X out of the live chat, click the thumbs up, and then you can get back in the live chat. So basically, nothing was done for the people of Flint under Republican Governor Rick Snyder. Governor Rick Snyder was the Republican governor. He was the one who appointed unelected emergency managers to run Flint. And those unelected emergency managers decided, let's switch the city of Flint from the Detroit water system to the Flint River. And, us environmental officials, we're not going to add the proper chemicals to the water supply that by law we have to add because we want to save money. So we're not going to add corrosion control treatment into the water, and as a result, the lead leached off. So if you want to give Governor Snyder and his allies and his advisors the benefit of the doubt that they didn't intend to do this, okay, well, the response, or therefore all, the lack of response, has been intentional. The last time we were in Flint, as I'm about to show you, it is a crisis and a catastrophe of epic proportions. If you need a reminder, before I get to the news, here is what Ty put together, a montage from our 5-year anniversary coverage, which you paid for and you funded us to be there.
Give me your past, give me your present, give me your night sky.
We've been tormented for 5 years. 5 years we've been tormented with dirty, nasty, unsafe, unhealthy water. The pods are not open anymore because they say the water is fixed. But if it's fixed, tell me where it's fixed. If it's fixed, tell me who fixed it. If it's fixed, tell me when they fixed it.
not over. It is not over. It's not a joke. It's not funny. The water is dirty.
44 years old. She died an absolutely horrible death because they lied to her about the water. Her skin was torn off of her body. Justice needs to be done for the Flint residents, and it needs to be done now.
I see dead GM workers and my sisters and my family.
I took him to McLaren. I trusted the hospital. I made the biggest mistake in my life. They said he had an unusual pneumonia. The bacteria is eating up all his red blood cells. And even when he was dying, I was trying to bathe him and scrub him in the same water that was ripping his life out.
I give you honesty and loyalty. I give you consistent.
My father, Joseph Clement, may he rest in complete power, was a victim of the water crisis. My father's body was riddled with cancer.
She had her breast removed, and then they ended up taking her stomach.
I lost my daughter's dad, who died from bacterial pneumonia August of 2015 before McLaren and the state decided that it was a Legionnaires bacteria.
My son had gotten really sick and he was on life support. They tested him for everything and they said it wasn't anything, but he was spitting out his insides, and to touch his mouth, blood was just gushing out. They said it looked like it was Legionnaires disease.
Flint water contributed to my mama. She just died in January from kidney failure and a whole bunch of things wrong with her.
It's like Russian roulette. You never know if you're going to get Legionnaires when you touch that water, take a shower. You just don't know. And, we just want people to know not to drink that water. That water is still not safe to drink. Still, this is happening today. It's not over. It's never been over. Whoever said it's over, it's a lie. It is a flat-out lie. Still continuing. 5 years and counting.
This place ain't safe. It's not safe at all. We got a pistol in our mouth every day. It's called tap water.
I wanted to set it up. If you didn't know what was still going on in Flint, that was a month ago. That was 1 month ago. And why this is important, it doesn't really matter if you live in Flint. It doesn't really matter if you at all have water problems in your community. The whole point of continuing to cover Flint is A, what kind of country do we live in? Do we live in a country where if through nothing you did wrong, you are poisoned, you are harmed by your government who was trying to privatize the water system? Because remember, that's why the Flint water crisis happened in the first place. They were temporarily using the Flint River because they were building a privatized water pipeline that was not necessary. And oops, we poisoned the poor people there. Oops, we poisoned the majority black community. And then they've left them to fend for themselves. So why this is super important is it could happen, and it most likely will happen, in a community near you if the people who caused this to the people of Flint are not held accountable. Because what exactly happens in a country if people, whether it's the government, whether it's the corporations, whoever it is that caused the problem, get away with it? It gives a playbook to other governors, to other senators, to other congresspeople, to other city council officials to say, well, they got away with it in Flint, so let's do it here. That's what happens. So status coup last year, for those of you who follow us, and remember, press the like button right there and press the share button. Status coup did something very radical. Because we've built up sources, Jen and I knocked on almost 500 doors in Flint. And what we found out was Governor Snyder, his environmental officials were cooking and cheating. They were cooking the data in Flint. They were cheating on the water testing by going into residents' homes and flushing their water, meaning running their water lines right before taking samples in dozens of homes. And those homes were the homes that were used for the official state testing program. And these were the homes that the governor of Michigan used, the very homes that they cheated on the water testing to get false lower numbers. These were the homes that Governor Rick Snyder used to declare Flint's water restored. And this story, written by Jen, you got Alyssa Milano, who called this out. You have Susan Sarandon, who reacted to our report and called it out. You had Congressman Ro Khanna calling for an investigation. You had Congresswoman and presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard calling for an investigation. Since then, we've had Congressman Dan Kildee, who represents Flint, who has called for an investigation. So all of this, the corporate media buried this story that Jen and I broke. The corporate media, Newsweek, was about to do the story, and they killed it the day before, which I digress. I don't want to get into. So we met in February. This was under Republican Governor Rick Snyder when we broke this story. In February, we met with the new Attorney General, Dana Nessel. We didn't meet with her, but we met with officials from her office, including the Solicitor General of Michigan, who is now in charge of the Flint water investigation. The whole thing. And by the way, we broke this story because you funded us to go to Flint. Jen and I didn't have the money. We hadn't even launched Status Coup yet. Thank you, Mapara Faruqi. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. $20 in the GoFundMe. So we're now at $55,340. So you funded us to be there. You funded us to break this story. And we didn't stop after we broke the story. We kept pushing. We kept trying to get lawmakers on the record. I pushed and I pushed until the Attorney General's office would meet with me. And today, I want to tell you, I have no idea if why the Attorney General has seized the governor of Michigan, Rick Snyder's phones, his iPad, his hard drive. I have no idea if it's connected to the story we broke. But what I do know is I met with Ty. We met with the AG's office in February, and it has just come out that former Governor Rick Snyder's phones, iPad, and computer hard drive has been seized via search warrants by the new Attorney General's office. Authorities investigating Flint's water crisis have used search warrants to seize from storage the state-owned mobile devices of former Governor Rick Snyder and 65 other current or former officials, the Associated Press has learned. The warrants were sought 2 weeks ago by the Attorney General's office and signed by a Flint judge, according to documents the Associated Press obtained through public records requests. Solicitor General Fadwa Hammoud, that is who I and Ty met with in February, and Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy, who is helping with the probe, confirmed they executed a series of search warrants related to the criminal investigation of Flint's lead-contaminated water in 2014 and 15 and an outbreak of Legionnaire's disease. They declined further comment. One warrant, signed May 19th, lists all content from Snyder's cell phone, iPad, and computer hard drive. Similar information was sought from the device of 33 employees who worked in his office, 11 in the Department of Environmental Quality, and 22 in the Department of Health and Human Services. The evidence was apparently initially obtained by former Special Prosecutor Todd Flood with investigative subpoenas. Because it has been kept in a division of the Attorney General's office, Hammoud took the unusual step of securing a warrant to search another part of the office. She has been managing the probe since January. We're doing everything we can to comply, said Dan Olson, a spokesman for Attorney General Dana Nessel, who is not involved in the criminal investigation and is instead handling lawsuits against the state by residents. A similar warrant was issued to the Department of Technology, Management, and Budget. Quote, the department is complying with the warrant. We cannot discuss the details further because it is part of pending litigation. The warrants seek data from the devices of individuals who have been charged in the probe, but also uncharged officials such as Snyder, former Environmental Quality Director Dan Wyant, and various people who worked in Snyder's office, including Lieutenant Governor Brian Calley, top aide Richard Baird, and Chief of Staff Dick Posthumus. Ooh, imagine having that name your whole life. Lawyers who have represented Snyder and his office could not immediately be reached for comment on Monday. The warrants came after Hammoud this year reported that boxes of records were discovered in the basement of a state building, including phone extractions and a trove of other materials stored on hard drives that allegedly had not been turned over in response to the subpoenas. She sought long breaks in the criminal cases to look at the boxes and any other evidence, but judges declined to suspend the case for 6 months. Folks, this is a major story, and you're not going to see it covered on CNN or on MSNBC. Thank you, Maddie Perry, $1.99 in the Super Chat. Remember, this is a Super Chat, and we are desperately trying to raise money through GoFundMe, and more importantly, we're desperately trying to grow our membership, which I'm going to get into this membership after I continue this story. So I want to go through a few things, so you know. About April 2016, I believe I have the month right. I developed a source in Flint who, I can't get into so many details, but was attached to the water crisis investigation. This source told me that all of the prosecutors from the state, meaning all of the prosecutors that were involved in the criminal case that were charging state officials, 15 officials have been tied so far. 15 officials have been charged related to the Flint water crisis. Thank you, Tyler, $2 in the Super Chat. All of them told me every single prosecutor on that team thought that they had enough evidence to charge then Governor Rick Snyder with a crime. Everyone differed on which crime they could charge him with. Some thought manslaughter. Some thought criminal negligence. But all of them felt there was enough evidence to charge him with something. This similar, like when you think of the Russia investigation, you know, Robert Mueller was a special prosecutor. So technically, he was supposed to be separate from the Attorney General's office, and the Attorney General's office was not supposed to be influencing Robert Mueller's investigation. So when you think about that dynamic, that was what it was supposed to be in Flint. The Attorney General of Michigan at the time was Republican Bill Schuette. He was a Republican who was also running for governor last year. So there was a special prosecutor in the Flint water crisis case with a team of other prosecutors with him, very similar to Robert Mueller's investigation, and they were supposed to be separate from the Attorney General's office, and they were supposed to be able to charge as they saw fit without having to get the permission from the Attorney General. I am told, and I was told then, that all of the prosecutors on that case thought they had enough evidence to charge Governor Snyder. But the then Attorney General, Bill Schuette, who was also running for governor as a Republican, would not allow them to charge Rick Snyder, which kind of makes sense if you're a corrupt, scummy, trying not to demonetize myself. The Attorney General was Republican. He was running for governor. If he allowed charges to go forward against Rick Snyder, you think he would get any campaign money from corporations and Snyder's the foundations that give money to Snyder, the oil companies that give money to Snyder, the banks that gave money to Snyder, all of the corporate usual suspects who give money to Snyder? Hell no. So although they felt they had enough evidence, Rick Snyder was never charged. Well, as I say nationally, I take on the Democratic Party as much as the Republican Party. However, if the Democratic Party does something that deserves credit, or if Democratic officials do something that deserves credit, I will give it to them, and so should you. So this is a case, at least on a state level, of when the Republican governor is gone, and when the Republican Attorney General is gone, and there is a Democratic governor, Gretchen Whitmer, and a Democratic Attorney General, Dana Nessel, this is an example of when voting Democrat actually could make a difference. I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all. I'm not a vote blue no matter who. But in the case of Michigan, this was the reason that they are seizing Rick Snyder's cell phone, his iPad, his computer hard drives. Let that sink in. That's a major beeping deal. Sorry, I'm trying not to demonetize myself. Thank you, Balthazar. $10 in the Super Chat. As long as you're funding, it's worth checking out Streamlabs or another free donation tracker with PayPal support. It pays out in 2 days or less, doesn't overcharge the donor, and it's free. I believe Jen has looked into that. But thanks for the suggestion and thanks for the super chat. So the fact that search warrants, seizing his phones, his iPad, his hard drive, they are not, let me make something very clear to you. The Attorney General of Michigan and her team is not seizing the former governor's phone, iPad, and computer hard drive if they don't have concrete reason to. If they're not looking specifically for something. You don't take that step unless you have some type of concrete evidence that there is a possible crime to charge former Governor Rick Snyder with. You just don't go to that length. It's a very risky move, and if you don't have anything substantial, then it could really basically have huge setbacks, both politically and legally, to do that. So why this is so important? You know, in America, we have pretty much 3 different legal systems. We have a legal system for rich white people. Sometimes wealthy black people are in there, but usually it's just rich white people. The second legal system is one for like working class, lower class white people. And the third legal system is for black people, brown people, Native Americans. So there really is 3 legal systems. And in that first legal system, I mean, 1 in 10 times does somebody in our government, in corporate America, at the foundation level, who is corrupt, who does wrong, who breaks the law, who poisons people, who harms people, who screws people. When do you ever hear a case of those people being held accountable? You don't. And when they are held accountable, it's a 6-month jail sentence. You get out for good behavior after 3 months, and that's all she wrote. This is why I have stayed on the Flint water crisis, because it's not just about the people of Flint. It's not just about the water. It's about if you don't hold government officials accountable, if there's no ramifications, if there's no criminal penalty for not only poisoning people, but then leaving them to die after, why wouldn't every government official do it to save a buck? We know most of our government officials are complete sociopaths. I want to play a clip for you of just one of the potential victims of Governor Rick Snyder and his state officials cheating on the water testing, which is a story Status Coup broke because you funded us, either as a member or in GoFundMe or however you funded us. And remember, no one else. You think CNN was knocking on 450 doors last summer and fall? Status Coup was. Frankly, you think the Young Turks was doing it? No. We do it because we're not here for clicks. We're not here to be a multi-billion-dollar corporate conglomerate. We don't have any corporate investors, corporate donors. We don't have any of that. We're doing it because we want to expose corruption and injustice that are strangling and destroying the lives of average people. So there was a young woman in Flint. She's 36. Her name was Amanda Janes. Never had a health problem in her life before the Flint water crisis, before the water was switched. One day, an official for the Department of Environmental Quality in Michigan knocked on her door and said, "I'm here to test your water." They went in, they ran her water, meaning they let her water run for about a minute or two, and then they put the sample bottle in and collected the sample, which is a crime. It's violating the federal EPA's lead and copper rule, which says you have to turn the water on and take the sample right away, because if you let the water run, even for 30 seconds, you're potentially just flushing out high levels of lead. So the guy takes the water sample the wrong way. Amanda gets in the mail paperwork that says no lead in your home. She's told when you test your water, because she was on the official, she is on the official state program that the state was going to use to wave to the EPA and say, hey, We did the testing. We cooked the numbers, but we did it. And now Flint's at normal levels, so we could call crisis over. When she tested the water, she did it the way the state official did it. He told her, yeah, let the water run. Results were the same, no lead. So, because she got results saying no lead, she went back to drinking the water without a filter. Because not every home, a lot of homes have taps where a filter won't fit over the tap. Well, if the government or state officials came into your home and they tested it and they told you, no problem, how would you know they're testing it the wrong way? Well, I'm not a doctor, so I can't draw cause and effect, but I can tell you she never had a health problem before the Flint water crisis. All of a sudden, in 2016, she starts getting spots on her kidney. Then she starts getting nodes on her spots on her thyroid. She has heart palpitations, extreme fatigue, could barely function. She was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. Now it's spread to her lymph nodes and she has lymphoma. I just spoke with her before we went live. She told me that they can't take out the cancer in her other lymph. They took out the cancer on this size, but they can't take out this. They can't do surgery to take it out. They have to shrink it first. As far as she knows, at best, she might have 5 years left on this planet. I want to play you a clip so you see the damage that has been done here.
But it's very painful for me. And it's upsetting to me because I'm used to taking care of her. You know, my son just asked me today, can you give me a ride? I'm like, no, I'm just too tired. I can't, you know. And I picked her up early from school today because I'm like, I'm just going to be too tired later to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just, you know, and we can't go to the bottled water places, so we just buy our own, even though we have a filter.
Well,
but
if there's
bottled water left too. My dad was watching the news and he's like, look, there's one down the street. I'm like, yeah, but by the time I get in my car, I feel like going, what's the point?
Yeah, it runs out. Or, I mean, we were here last year. There was like 3-4 hour lines.
Yeah.
Just to get
water.
Yeah.
It's sad. But, I mean, we can afford $2, $3, $4 a case. You know, 2 cases like $4.
Right.
But still, we had enough filters after my neighbor moved out. She gave me all our filters, so we had enough to last us a long time.
And what about your mental health? I mean, you're holed up in the house all the time. You're young. You're 36.
No, can't go out because, you know, germs. So I can't do nothing fun with her. Like, just before I was diagnosed with more cancer, I finally got out of the house and took her to that jump place on Miller Road, but no, I've been inside all winter. I haven't went outside. I haven't to grocery shop. Thank God Walmart's got that thing where they just come out to your car and just put it in there. Like, I'd rather just be in the store getting my kids their food and my husband his things, but no, I'll just use the Walmart app and have them bring it out to my car. And I feel like they look at me and it's like, you're young, why aren't you inside shopping? You know? It's like, I wish I could be inside shopping.
Right.
You know?
What do the doctors say? I mean, do they talk about the water as a source of...
I told them, they always ask me where I live, like what, not like what side of town I live on, but where.
That was Amanda, who, like I said, never had a problem before the Flint water crisis. I cannot get into any details, but there's another story we're working on related to Flint that, frankly, I don't want to minimize what we found as far as the water testing being cooked and cheated. But this other story that we're looking into is quite possibly like one of the most sinister, corrupt things I've ever found out in my career. And I've been doing this in an investigative capacity for about 6-7 years. I can't get into any details because it would not be safe to do so, but let's just say if what we think we've uncovered is true, you're talking about a much, much darker, sinister thing related to this water crisis. But bottom line, we'll see what happens. The fact that the Attorney General of Michigan has seized the former governor's phone, his iPod, his hard drive is a major, major thing. I want to also read a comment I got from a Flint activist before I went live. Her name is Melissa Mays. She's been one of the leading activists on the ground there. She's been quoted throughout the media. She has a lot of health problems. Her kids have a lot of health problems related to the water crisis. She told me in response to the Attorney General seizing Snyder's phones and iPad and hard drive, after years of the previous administration seemingly not allowing the investigation to move forward up the chain of command, this is a welcome piece of news. Once Schuette, the former Attorney General, was out of office, we were hoping the prosecution would finally be allowed to investigate the governor and his office. My hope is that they find the evidence to support what we in Flint already know in our hearts, that there was a cover-up that goes all the way to the top, and innocent people have suffered and died as a result. My hope is that the guilty will be held accountable, and we in Flint will finally get the answers we demand so we could maybe take steps towards an actual recovery, especially for those who have lost their loved ones. Flint residents and the entire country at this time need to know and see that no one is above the law, and that our lives actually do matter. And I think this statement is so super important. And Carol, okay, you got me. Today I cancel my 9-year TYT membership and join Status Coup. Well, I don't want to get a reputation. I'm not telling you what to do as far as TYT, but I am telling you, become a Status Coup member. We are currently at 232. We just didn't have a chance to update. It was 426. We're now at 432 members. By the end of June, we got a bold goal, and that's 500 members. Membership is how we grow. The more members we have, the more revenue we have on a monthly basis. The more revenue we have on a monthly basis, the more we could go out in the field where no one else is. No one else is in the field covering the stories of the disappearing middle class, covering environmental genocide, covering local and state level corruption, covering police brutality and economic violence against black people, covering Native Americans in the fight against these pipelines, covering the next Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the local and state level progressives that need attention to even have a chance of competing in 2020. We want to do it, and that's why I hired a new reporter who I'm about to talk about. But I need your help. If you have been on the fence about becoming a member, what is $5 to $10 a month worth to you? Is it worth it to you to have real in the field journalism? Because as humbly as I could say it, we're not just talking here. We're showing you. We've been to Dallas, Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, Virginia, Seattle, Vancouver, Flint many times in just a year. West Virginia, DC, I mean, the list goes on. And we've done it basically scratching quarters together. We don't have a major, financial sugar daddy like some. We don't, and we don't want it. We want to grow organically through you, the viewers, $5 and $10 at a time. So please, if you got the money, if you don't, we understand. If you don't have the money, we get it. We don't want to make your situation worse. But if you do have $5 a month, you get certain extra content at $5 a month to be a member. If you got $10 a month, you get certain extra bonus content. $20 a month, you get a little bit more. Or $179 annually. We welcome every single member. And I don't exaggerate when I say we won't survive as a company without paid membership. I cannot pay Jen and Ty and Colin and Marcus now, and eventually take something for myself without money. I just can't do it. So right now, I'm living off my savings, but there's realities. So we got to grow. A little bit later, I'll tell you how you could also gift membership if you want to buy a membership for somebody else. But I hope you guys will join us because it's super, super important. And we're doing this because we care. Let me tell you something, folks. A little secret. If Jen or I or Ty or Colin or Marcus, if we wanted to become famous, if we wanted to become big media stars, if we wanted to make a lot of money quick, you know what I'd be talking about right now? Donald Trump with Queen Elizabeth. Because that's what gets the clicks these days, unfortunately. I'd be covering on an hourly basis whatever Trump tweeted. We're not interested in doing that. We're interested in covering stories that matter. I will cover Trump when I feel it's important, or I feel I have something to add different from the 25,000 other outlets covering Trump and his every tweet and BS. So consider becoming a member, and also GoFundMe is super important too. And part of why we are pushing GoFundMe is, if you missed yesterday, we have brought on a new Status Coup reporter. His name is Marcus Ely. I think he's got a lot of just pure tenacity, which I think is super important. If you give me a choice between a super experienced journalist who's kind of lazy thinking, who kind of falls into this new, I'm a neutral robot. I got to be neutral, and I want access. If you give me one of those people who are experienced, have a lot more experience interviewing, versus somebody a little bit more green, somebody a little bit more like new to doing interviews and doing journalism, but's got a lot of tenacity, who's fearless, who's not interested in being liked and doesn't care if he's liked by powerful people, and maybe needs a little mentoring, but you cannot teach that tenacity, I'll take that person every time. So I apologize for those who might have seen this yesterday, but for those who haven't, I want to show you one of Marcus's interview, and this is what we're pushing membership for, and this is what we're pushing GoFundMe for. And Alex, I will tell you one thing. Alex just wrote this. TYT is like Vice News. I thought you said Status Coup is like Vice News. I was like, we're not like Vice News. Anyway, enough about TYT. So here is one of Marcus's interviews. We just had him on the road, and we also had Ty on the road, which we're going to show you some of those as well. We just had them on the road in Nevada, in California, covering multiple Bernie Sanders events. So we have posted some of Marcus's interviews. We're going to post some of Ty's interviews over the next few days. So you know, I did not wait till we had the money to hire Marcus. That might be extremely stupid of me, or it might ultimately end up being very smart of me. But I said to myself, you know what? The campaign is now. It's now. There is nobody at Bernie rallies. There is no media other than corporate propaganda at Bernie rallies. There's nobody interviewing Bernie Sanders voters. There's nobody interviewing Tulsi Gabbard's voters. I reached out to Tulsi's campaign today to ask her, are you going to be out in the field anywhere, whether in Nevada, California, New York, New Hampshire? Because we'd like to come cover your rallies, because we think Tulsi Gabbard's supporters deserve to have a voice too. So I decided to front the money personally to bring Marcus on board. I guaranteed him 2 months, and we'll see if we grow the money to keep him after those 2 months. So as you watch this, I really, really hope you'll consider becoming a member and contributing to the GoFundMe. Here's one of Marcus's interviews.
Marcus Ely here with Status Coup, and I'm here with, what was your name, sir?
Scott Tolbert.
Scott Tolbert, and he is, we're all here at the Bernie rally in Las Vegas, Nevada, on the east side, kind of closer to downtown. So what brings you to the Bernie event today?
I just agree with almost everything he has to say. So I used to be right wing, but the right wing has gone just off the rails. But then again, so have the left wing. Democrats, Republicans, I don't like either one of them. That's why I like Bernie.
And what in specific don't you like about the Democrats and the Republicans? Like what specific things?
The games they're playing, they're both basically sold out to the corporations. I mean, that's all there is to it. If you look into it, everything they do, everything they vote for, it's all the corporations own our leaders now. They just do. You know, so I want somebody to come in that's not owned, that doesn't owe anybody anything, and get our country back, get our country right again.
Okay, definitely. So when we talk about the other Democrats running, because there's like 25 of them now, the main one that's the front runner that we're being told we all need to fall behind right now is Joe Biden. So just what are your thoughts about him?
You want me to say that on camera?
I have a mute button.
I think the guy's a dick. I really do. I just can't stand the man. You know, I look at him like I look at Trump. You know, and the fact that, I mean, it's just reported he was talking to some little girl. I'm like, dude, you're such a creeper.
Oh, it's crazy you mentioned that, because today that was on, and my daughter was next to me, and she's 4 years old. And I looked at my daughter, and I had her look at it, and I was like, if anybody touches you like that, that's not mommy, daddy, auntie, uncle, grandma, somebody like that.
I'd have punched him.
Oh yeah, it would have been a problem.
Yeah, I'd have gone to jail.
I understand. Well, I don't think Joe Biden's pretty powerful. I think they might do something else to you besides jail.
They could stick me in a hole. I don't give a shit. They're not touching my kid like that.
Yep, definitely. I understand that. So, looking at the other candidates, the establishment. Not even looking at anybody else?
I'm not even looking at anybody else. I was behind Bernie the first time, and I'm behind him again. Okay. But it doesn't matter because they're going to rig the primaries.
How do you think they're going to do that?
Just like they did last time. I mean, right here in Las Vegas, the way they did it at the convention here, it was so obvious it wasn't even funny. You know, they want Biden, and that's all there is to it. I mean, they're going to rig it for Biden. And
so, I know what you're talking about when we talk about the Nevada convention, but if you can remind everybody what happened.
Well, what they did is they went against their own rules. They had a vote, and it's supposed to be by voice. And the Bernie supporters were a lot louder. I mean, they just plain simple were. And the woman was behind Hillary, the one who was in charge of the meeting. And she gavelled the meeting and ended it when it was, I forgot exactly how it went. But it's supposed to be a voice vote, and Bernie supporters won. But she gavelled out and said that Hillary supporters won, and just ended the meeting. You know, so.
And apparently, I believe a chair was thrown.
Oh, no, that was made up. That was completely made up, and it was proven to be false.
Yeah, I know. I'm just, but
I wouldn't mind throwing a chair when they do stupid shit.
So the one thing that really kind of worries people is that a lot of these Bernie folks will not vote for anybody other than Bernie,
if they rig it again, I'm not voting
at all.
No, I didn't last time because of Hillary. I could not in good faith support her. I couldn't support Trump, so I'm not going to vote for either one of them. If they rig the elections again, I will not vote, and Trump will win.
Okay. And how do you feel about the effects that may come because of that?
I don't.
Because like.
That's really a tough one because I've got views from both parties. I can't stand a lot of what Trump does. I think he's just dumber than a box of rocks. But I don't want, the normal corporate person like Biden in. I just don't. So it's a difference between two buckets of, yeah.
But like, do you think we'd have kids in cages and all this stuff we're having if we'd have had Hillary instead of Trump?
No, I don't think so. But I think she would have done some shady stuff anyways. But, I can't get behind the blue no matter who. I just can't do it. I was a registered Republican I've never voted Democrat in my life. I always voted Republican. This is the first time I've changed over. And it's for Bernie. So, I'm not going to do blue no matter who. I'm behind Bernie, plain and simple. He's the only reason I'm going left. I like his policies because he cares about people.
So it's not about politics. You're not a heavily politically involved type person. You're just like, this guy fits my values type deal.
Exactly. And to me, he's somebody who actually cares about people and cares about the country. That the right talks about how they, the Christian right talks about how, they want, Bible back in school and all this. I'm like, the only person who's actually acting like Jesus was taught all of us was Bernie. He does. He does what Jesus said to do. The right sure as hell doesn't. No way, no.
You could say the same thing about the left, too, because the one time Jesus gets violent in the Bible is when he smacked up the money changers and threw them out of the church. Yeah. And Bernie's talking about breaking up the banks. I guess that's the closest thing to smacking up a money changer.
Exactly. Yeah. I hope they do break up the banks. The big corporations, they just need to be put in check. They really do. Because they're taking record profits but not increasing wages. And that's just not right. People just can't afford to live, right? It's turning into a third world country in a lot of places, and that's just not right. Not in this country. We have so many homeless people because they can't afford to live on the salaries they're making.
Yeah, two empty homes for every one homeless person.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Don't even get me started on the VA property out in LA. That was made for soldiers to come in and recover, and it's all about money down there. They don't house one soldier down there, and all those vets on the streets in LA, and they've got 500 acres that was given to them for the one purpose of putting them so they had a place to go. They just don't do it.
So, if you could talk to the Democratic establishment, and you had 2 sentences to tell them, hey, this is why I want my voice to be heard and why we want our voices to be heard, what would you say to them?
That's a good question. If I ever got elected, I know I'd get kicked out real quick because I tell a lot of people get fucked. But that would probably be my first sentence to them. They need to listen to the people and no longer listen to corporations. And too many of them are bought now. They just don't listen to people anymore. Neither side does. So.
Okay. All right. Definitely. Well, I really appreciate you for your time and your honesty, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.
So that was Marcus. He is from Nevada. He's got 3 kids, so he obviously is a busy man, 3 young children, but we really, really like what he brings to the table. He obviously brings different life perspective than all of us. Actually, no, Ty was homeless for a little while, so was Marcus. And I think the beauty of Marcus is strategically he's going to be able to help us. Nevada and California are 2 of the first 5 voting states. So Marcus being in Nevada, he obviously could cover when Bernie and other candidates are in Nevada. And also he's a pretty quick flight to California to cover Bernie and Tulsi. And we want to go to more of the establishment candidates' rallies and challenge their voters respectfully. The same way I was able to do it in 2016. So we need your support. We need your support. While I've been live so far today, we have gotten four new Status Coup members. Welcome to the party. Carol Edwards, new Status Coup member. Denise DePiaz, new Status Coup member. Harry Gopal, new Status Coup member. And Amy Schreier, new Status Coup member. That brings us, we'll have to update the member meter tomorrow, but that brings us to 436 paid members. And by the way, this 436 paid members, that's to go with 327 patrons. So altogether, we have over 750 of you who have joined what I like to call the Coup Day Cavalry. And a lot of you complain, no, not a lot of you, but some of you complain, Jordan, stop asking for money, stop asking for money. Well, here's the deal. You can't have it both ways. You can't, as viewers who want real reporting, independent reporting, say, oh, we don't want news who sells out and gets big money from their corporate parents, whose corporate parent is Comcast, whose corporate parent is AT&T, who certain media outlets that I won't mention get a lot of funding from certain bigwigs that are not aligned with their values. Not naming any names. You can't say you don't want that, but then say, oh, well, for the people that are trying to do it the right way and raise the money through their viewers so that they only have to answer their viewers, stop asking for money. Well, if I don't ask, who's going to ask on our behalf? Because Jen and I, and Ty, and Marcus, we're not willing to go sit down with Goldman Sachs. We're not willing to go sit down with ExxonMobil. We're not willing to go sit down with Big Pharma, with Silicon Valley, with real estate developers. No, no, no. So if I got to die trying, I'm going to do this the grassroots way, and I'm going to do this through you, the viewer. So thank you. As I said, we're keeping it real. We want to be as transparent as possible. I fronted Marcus's first month's pay with my personal money, not Status Coup's. So we told Marcus we could guarantee you 2 months based on me fronting him the first month's pay, probably either status quo or me fronting the second month's pay. And if we grow enough to be able to cover you with money we're actually bringing in, we're going to keep you. If we don't grow, we'll have to evaluate it then. We're also trying to reach out and get larger funding, not from corporations, not from plutocrats, preferably from some celebrities that are progressive or other sources that are progressive and aligned with our values. So that's the full truth. That's the transparent truth. I believe that if I don't believe in this, if I'm not willing to put my money where my mouth is, which in this case is going out on a limb and just paying the guy out of my pocket to get him in here, well, how could I ask other people if I don't believe in it? So that's the deal. That's the deal. So welcome to Marcus. Thank you everybody for the GoFundMes, for joining as a member. Keep it coming. Thank you. We just got $5 from Tarek in the GoFundMe, Gene in the GoFundMe. I got one more story for you. Hey, why you should become a member? Status quo is kind of becoming a big deal. Guess who I interviewed? Guess who I interviewed today? None other than Bernie Sanders' campaign manager, Faiz Shakir. Faiz Shakir, and I'm probably mispronouncing his name. So I apologize. I didn't have a chance. I got this to Ty a little late. So the screen is actually going to go blank for a second. Well, a couple seconds, because I have to add in the quote. But it will be worth it. I promise. Do-do-do, do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do. All right, so that's one. Hold on. Phase 2. Nothing like the best production value known to man. Phase 3. And while you wait, commiserate, talk amongst yourselves. I'm almost done. Phase 3. Phase 3. Almost done. Shakir. Okay, so here we go. So I interviewed him. I'm going to have a written story about it probably tomorrow, actually Wednesday, because tomorrow I got to watch my sick nephew. But I spoke with Bernie Sanders' campaign manager about a lot of things. We talked about the polling being kind of wacky. We talked about the corporate media attacks against Bernie Sanders. We talked about Joe Biden and how he's being painted as, quote, the most electable based on nothing. We talked about just a whole lot of things. So I look forward. We talked on the phone, so it's not a video, but I'm going to do a written story so you could hear what he said. I think his campaign manager is really sharp. I like his strategy, and I liked a lot of the things he had to say. So the first thing I asked him about was the fact Jen did a good story. Our Jen Dies did a good story. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out at statusquo.com. And that story is, why is CNN not disclosing that its parent company, AT&T, gave $51,000 to Kamala Harris's campaign? And as you could see, this was written, and we posted it last week. A combination of AT&T's employees, AT&T's corporate PAC, owners of AT&T, and family members of AT&T employees donated $50,806 to Senator Kamala Harris's presidential campaign thus far in 2019. So that's just for the first 3 months of this month. CNN's parent company, thank you, Phil, $2 in the super chat. Schultze, $5 in the super chat. Love it. Look at that. I didn't even have to swear this time. Cheers. Thank you, Schultze. The fact that Kamala Harris, CNN's parent company, AT&T, yes, it's individuals who work for AT&T, but also it was AT&T's corporate PAC. So AT&T's corporate PAC mixed with employees who work at AT&T gave Kamala Harris almost $51,000 just the beginning of this year. That comes, okay, so that's AT&T. That comes after CNN's former parent company, which, full disclosure, my younger brother works for, Warner Media. It used to be called Time Warner, now it's Warner Media. That comes after Warner Media gave $127,000 to Kamala Harris's Senate campaign in 2016. You with me? CNN's last parent company, Warner Media, individuals working for them, gave Kamala Harris $127,000 to her Senate campaign. Now, CNN's current parent company, AT&T, has given her almost $51,000 for the first 3 months. Are we to think that just like all those mid-level, lower-level worker bees at AT&T just love Kamala Harris? They're just amazed by the for the people shtick? Is that really what you want me to believe? Or maybe AT&T, which now owns CNN, thinks they're going to get something out of Kamala Harris, the former Attorney General of California, who put single mothers in jail for truancy, who locked up a whole lot of black people, who put a lot of people away that people say today are innocent, but she doesn't have any regrets. Thank you, HD Spider-Man 56, $10 in the super chat. You wrote, keep up the great work. Your interview with Donna Brazil was great and unintentional comedy when you make that funny facial expression when asking, why should we trust this? You know, honestly, that facial expression was just exhaustion at that point. Like, it's like talking to a corrupt wall. What did she keep saying? She was like, what is the phrase she kept saying? I don't know. She kept saying, like, the same word over and over and over again. And it was just exhausting. So I turned to Emma at the time. I was like, Jesus Christ, will this end? But yes, and I would love to have another Donna Brazil moment with a different corrupt Democratic official on the 2020 campaign trail. But you got to help us get out there. Become a member, statuscoup.com/join. Become a member. Get me out on the campaign trail. Get Marcus and Ty out on the campaign trail. Help us get out there. So, $10. Thank you, Pop Reality. $2. Just because #statuscoup. Appreciate that, Pop Reality. So, how can CNN, who, by the way, its parent company, gave Kamala Harris $51,000, almost $51,000 in the first 3 months of this year, how could they do segments and lovely written stories? And remember, 24 hours after she announced as a candidate, they gave her basically a pillow party. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, that town hall. I mean, the questions were just softball after softball after softball. It was revolting. How can that be with no disclosure? So I asked Bernie's campaign manager, do you guys have a problem that these same corporate media outlets that are basically, you got Politico doing stories calling Bernie Sanders a cheap Jew. You got the New York Times doing a story suggesting that Bernie Sanders is essentially a communist sympathizer. You got the Washington Post allowing columnist Jennifer Rubin to basically write 16 negative stories about Bernie Sanders herself a week. I mean, it just doesn't stop. So do you have a problem with the lack of disclosure? And surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, but I'm happy he told me, he does. He said, this is Faiz Shakir talking to me earlier. You're exactly right. Obviously, we know the senator's strength. Oh, no, that's not the one I want. He said, those kinds of disclosures are really important to make. Structurally, it is important for people to understand and know how their media is funded, what they decide to cover, and why they may have certain biases about what they're covering. So again, that's Faiz Shakir, Bernie Sanders' campaign manager, during an interview we spoke earlier today. So what he's talking about there is, yeah, if I'm watching CNN or I'm reading Politico or the Washington Post, yeah, maybe I want to know, if I'm reading the Washington Post, that the owner of the Washington Post, Amazon and Jeff Bezos, basically hates Bernie Sanders because Bernie Sanders committed the crime of calling him out for not paying his workers a living wage. Maybe I want to know that Amazon would benefits that Bernie Sanders has called out Amazon, Washington Post parent company, for not paying any federal taxes, for its terrible working conditions. Maybe I, as the reader of the Washington Post, might want to know that has something to do with the Washington Post. So I know, okay, I'm reading their negative after negative after negative. At least I know maybe it has something to do with who's signing the paychecks. Maybe if I'm watching CNN, I deserve to know, if you're doing a segment on Kamala Harris, that the people that are signing your checks, Anderson Cooper, your checks, Don Lemon, your checks, Wolf Dinosaur Blitzer. Thank you, Jen. I apologize. Faiz Shakir. It's spelled F-A-I-Z, but I was mispronouncing it. Thanks, Jen. Faiz Shakir. Maybe I want to know. Maybe I want to know that all this lovey-dovey coverage of Kamala Harris, well, the parent company signing all these anchors at CNN checks is giving lots of money to Kamala Harris. And I'm sure when Joe Biden's financial information is shown, it'll show AT&T gave him a lot of money too. Don't you think that's kind of ethical for journalism? Do you think it's ethical? Michael, Jordan getting to interview anyone from Sanders' campaign is a good step. Maybe he'll get to talk to Bernie himself soon. No comment on that, but I'm trying. I am trying. So, another thing we talked about was the polling. As I've reported very consistently here at Status Coup, all of these polls, and this is how it works. A poll is released at like 6 in the morning, right? And it's been showing lately Joe Biden's up by like 18, 20 points. None of the reporters actually read the polls. They just read the headline and they pass it off. So then Morning Joe says, oh, Joe Biden is the front runner. He's up by 20 points. And then it's on and on and on and on every hour on the hour. And you get a narrative. Just like we got a narrative in 2016, Hillary Clinton's up by like 900 delegates because we lumped the super delegates in with the pledged delegates. So I asked Faiz Shakir, what do you guys think? Because I've only heard Bernie speak out on the polling once. And well, basically he said what I've been reporting. I mean, all these polls are wildly oversampling older voters, 50 and above, and undersampling younger voters. And again, I always say this, it's no offense to older people, because there are a lot of older, above 50 years old, older than 50 people that like Bernie or Tulsi and are progressive. But by the data, the majority of older people in this country vote establishment. That's how Hillary Clinton got her votes. That's how Joe Biden is getting his votes. So I asked Faiz, should this be pointed out? He agrees. He said, you're exactly right. Obviously, we know the senator's strength tends to come from younger voters, and those younger voters are often underrepresented in these landline-based polls. And if those polls are not doing a good job of trying to account for young people or figuring out different ways to reach them, then those, by our own estimation, should be deemed a bit suspect. But instead, what you often have happen is a lot of these landline-based polls that overrepresent older people are eaten up and propagated with a great deal of attention in the mainstream media without really anyone questioning some of these basic factors that you and I are discussing. Damn! I mean, I don't want to edit anything he says, but I would call it I would go a little further than a bit suspect, because essentially they're kind of like cooking. Okay, they're not cooking the data. I mean, these are real numbers, but they're getting the numbers that they want. Let's put it at that. When he says, by our own estimation, they should be deemed a bit suspect, I mean, they're giving you, these polling companies, they got money. I mean, they have ways to find more younger people to poll. Thank you, Phil C., $27 in the super chat. The Royals, Trump, and all the neo-dirtbags can fall off the edge of flat Earth for all I care. I agree. Well, I happen to like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. I don't want them to fall off the flat Earth. I like them. Prince Charles, he could fall. I don't like Prince Charles. He cheated on Diana. But I don't want Prince Harry or Meghan Markle or Princess Meghan Markle and their new child to fall. I don't know. I guess I like Prince William. Is it Prince William? Yeah, I like him too, and Kate Middleton. But I don't like the rest of them. I don't like Charles. I'm not for him becoming king. But anyway, I digress. So one thing that impressed me about Faiz, and again, I'm going to write this as a written story a little bit later this week. So you'll have a written story at statuscoup.com, which, by the way, Do you have statuscoup.com bookmarked? You should be going to statuscoup.com on a daily basis. It's like brushing your teeth in the morning, statuscoup.com. Secondly, have you joined our email list on statuscoup.com? We have to grow our email list. The more people we have in the email list, that's how you grow a company. And Jen is very big on email lists. So please, if you haven't, join our email list. We will not bury you with 25 emails a week. We will send an email a couple times, probably with content, sometimes asking for financial support, but always trying to bring you the news first and interesting stuff. Sign up for our email list. So, yeah, it's definitely more exciting than brushing your teeth, joining our email list. So, the bottom line is this. Talking to Faiz, I think Bernie's campaign, with their internal polling, I think it's a lot closer than the corporate media is letting on, and I think they know that. He also, I like something he said to me about making sure that the campaign knows it's a different dynamic than 2016. So let's not go about the Iowa caucus based on what happened in 2016. Let's not go about the New Hampshire primary based on what happened in 2016. Same thing with South Carolina and the other ones. It's an entirely different dynamic. You got a lot more different candidates. He also said some things to me that I can't repeat because they were off the record that I thought were very good. I don't want to tease you, but as a journalist, I gotta honor that, so I'm not going to share that. But he did say some things that I felt were very good, and I'll leave it at that. So I look forward to writing that article and getting our whole conversation out there. I will say I would like to see Bernie Sanders' campaign hit back harder against the corporate media. They're choosing not to. I think that's slightly a mistake. I think the only way you knock down propaganda is by hitting it in the nose. Not literally, no violence, but hitting it in the nose, figuratively. And I hope they start calling out these polls more, because it's not that different than Trump. Trump is repeat the lie, repeat the lie, repeat the lie, repeat the lie. Well, if the corporate media keeps pushing Joe Biden's up by 20, Joe Biden's up by 20, Joe Biden's up by 20, then people that don't actually pay attention say, I should tune out. I'll just vote for Biden when my primary's up because, he's going to win. So I hope they call out these polls a little bit more. And I look forward to bringing you that interview, and I appreciate him talking to us. I think that's a good sign for Status Coup. I got the impression that they have seen our work, that they have seen our stories, that they appreciate it. We also talked about the water crisis in America, including Flint, so we'll have that for you. I don't think I could get the story up by tomorrow because my brother asked me to come watch my nephew tomorrow. He's sick. So tomorrow I will not be live. In my place will be Ty Bayless. So for those of you who have been asking, where's Ty? He will be live tomorrow, 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific. I told him to get some sleep because apparently he doesn't sleep anymore, so that he'll have a little energy. So be there around 5 o'clock Eastern time. Ty will be live, bringing you Ty style of journalism. And he's done with the documentary, so you'll be seeing more of Ty as well. So that's it for today. I thank you. Let me give you a final update. We got... All right, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 new members while we were live, and I think 2 patrons. So that's 7 total. If you're watching right now and you have not gone to statuscoup.com/join, and you have not signed up at $5 a month or $10 a month or $20 a month or $179 annually. Again, for the people that don't have that money, who don't have the money to do that, I understand, no problem. For the people that do have a couple bucks a month to support real independent journalism, I think we're showing you what we're going to spend the money on. We're putting our money where our mouth is. You got Marcus out there covering the campaign. Ty is going to show you some of his reporting tomorrow. I, as my back heals, will be out there again covering the campaign. Jen will also be out there covering stories as much as she can. So you help us. We have the will. You help us find the way. And somebody wrote, fact, joining Status Coup makes you 15 to 20% sexier. I feel a lot younger. I don't know about sexier, but I feel a lot younger. Besides the fact that a foot doctor today told me my Achilles is screwed up. But other than that, I feel plenty young. So, thank you for watching. Ty will be with you tomorrow. Remember, you are part of the Coup Day Cavalry. So spread the word. If you can't become a member, you can spread the word. Share our videos. Follow us on Twitter at Status Coup on Twitter. Let me show you if you don't know. If you don't know, well, now you know. This is our Twitter page. So it's as easy as just going there and click the follow button. Status Coup on the Twitter. Thank you. Remember, we also have our GoFundMe going, our membership, and as always, most people are not lacking compassion. Most people have no earthly idea what is going on in the United Corporations of America. Peace out.